Hi, everybody. It's great to have you all join us today. I'm Samantha Raphael, the Lead Generation Marketing Manager at Accusoft. I'm excited to welcome you all to our webinar, Exploring Future Trends in AI-Driven Document Management with PrizmDoc's Dan Lee. He's the Senior Product Manager at Accusoft, along with Omkar Nimbalkar. He's IBM's Vice President of Ecosystem Engineering and Build Lab. So as we're just waiting for more people to come in, a bit of housekeeping before we get started. All attendees are in listen mode only today, so I'm sure you'll all have some great questions as Dan and Omkar take us through the presentation today. So we welcome you to post them in the Q&A section of the webinar toolbar at any time during the presentation, and then Dan and Omkar will answer them at the end of the presentation. All right, well, just about another minute, we'll wait for some more people to come in, and then Dan and Omkar will get started in about, we'll just give it about 30 more seconds. Okay, great. Well, as we're just getting ready here, more people are coming in. Just a reminder to everybody, you're in listen mode only. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A section of your panel. And then Dan and Omkar will answer them at the end of the presentation. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you, Dan and Omkar, to get started.
Great, thank you, Samantha. And again, thanks everybody for joining us. Really excited about this topic, and also very excited to have Omkar here with us to help kind of talk about future trends in AI as it relates to document management systems. So a lot of our customers that use the PrizmDoc product, they take the PrizmDoc product and they've embedded that into their ECM or into their application that they've built. And the future, or the AI technology that's evolved over just in the last few years has really brought a lot of really exciting opportunities, and it's just something that's continuing to evolve on a very fast pace. And so we kind of want to touch base on kind of what are some of the opportunities and possibilities that will be enabled in the future with PrizmDoc and this integration that we have with IBM Watson X. Just quick agenda. We're going to talk at a very high level. We're going to go through kind of three core things today. We're going to talk about future trends in AI. So we're going to go through and we'll talk about some of where that AI technology is going, and we're going to show you some examples of kind of how IBM is leading in that space, and some examples of use cases of things that you can use this technology for. Then we'll briefly touch on just PrizmDoc and Watson X AI and how those two are integrated together. And then we'll dive into some use cases specifically around document management and how the AI is being used and what PrizmDoc is doing to deliver solutions in those spaces today. So first of all, let's start off with future trends in AI. So there's really a couple key areas that we want to talk about here. Intelligent document processing. We're going to talk about machine learning. We're going to talk about generative AI. These are all kind of some core areas of AI development that is really starting to touch and is really impacting what we can do in the document management space. And intelligent document processing really helps take a lot of tasks that are done today by humans, right, and helps to create like automation around that, just using that AI-powered IDP systems. And there's lots of things that you can do with that in terms of, classifying data, extracting data, routing documents. All of those are things that can happen based on the content of the document and what the AI has been trained to do. And a lot of these will interrelate. So when we start to talk about machine learning, for example, that ties right into that as well. Another big part of this is improved accuracy, right? So anytime you have something that is done by a human being, right, there's always kind of that potential for error. Now, doesn't mean that error doesn't exist in AI as well, but as the AI gets trained over time, the AI becomes a little bit more reliable in terms of accuracy of identifying specific information within a document, being able to handle also complex document layouts, varying formats, handwritten text, things that can be quite kind of thrown off for people, right? And they may miss something if the complex layout of the document. It's very easy to miss, pieces of content. So again, the AI is taking in that full document and able to process the whole thing, and it's not missing any part of it. And then just being able to provide real-time insights. So anytime in your document management workflow, if you have large volumes of data that you need to process, that's time consuming, right? Especially when we talk about things like e-discovery. So with PrizmDoc, we have a lot of customers that do e-discovery, and they got to process large volumes of data, and they want to be able to process those documents quickly and identify what documents are relevant. So being able to do that intelligently using something like AI really helps to kind of streamline that process. Natural language processing is something you're probably all very familiar with. You've probably used ChatGPT or Gemini or any of those tools where you're talking to one form of that would be talking to the AI tool and having it respond or do something based on what you said, but also being able to process the content from within a document and understand it more contextually, right? And understanding kind of what is the context of or the sentiment of what's being said in this document or this email or whatever it is you're processing. And that's one of the really powerful things with AI is that you're able to then take this to not just look for, it's not just searching for data, right? You're not just searching for specific information. You're actually able to have it utilize and understand the context of the document when you're interacting with that document, or when you're maybe having that create content. Automated content generation is of course a big area where you're starting to see a lot of people use AI in terms of creating summaries or generating reports based on the data it's extracting from other documents or other sources. And again, it's important for it to kind of understand the context of the data that it's extracting from when it's creating that automated content generation, when it's doing that, because there could be instances where you're like, I don't want this information in this context A, but in context B, that's the kind of information that I want. So very powerful. And again, we'll have some examples of these to show you as well. Generative AI is one that everybody's probably heard of, used at this point. It's very easy to go in and have AI create not just documents, create images, create videos. There's lots of things that can be done with this, both good and bad, right? I think we want to kind of frame this in the perspective of, from a business perspective, what is the value? Where can this be introduced in your document management workflow to help streamline those processes, to save time where a person might have to do something before, where that can be automated. But then that also empowers that person to maybe even put, you give them a starting point and then they can extend on that and make it better. It just makes the whole process more efficient overall. And when you talk about creating documents, this could be, creating documents from scratch. This could be things like creating, just emails, based on templates or data inputs or whatever. You can automate, like it'd be a contracts, automatically creating contracts, making sure certain clauses are in there based on specific conditions. So lots of things you can do in that. The other thing that's really interesting about generative AI, and you start to think about kind of going back to like the natural language processing and how the content is written and how you present the content in your writing. The AI is now being leveraged into tools like your email tools, where it can look at your content that you've created, and you can say, not just, we've gone beyond just spell check, we've gone just beyond, like even grammar checks. It's like, make this more professional, or make this more friendly, or maybe make this more concise. Like a lot of people write really long-winded emails, and to get to the point, maybe I want to just have the AI make that more concise. So a lot of really strong benefits here, especially in that document creation process of how do we make those documents better so that they're easier for the intended party to consume that information and get what they want out of that, or what they are trying to get out of that document. Machine learning and predictive analytics. So there's a lot of use cases here around implementing these two, and you'll see kind of an overlap there where these two things kind of can go hand in hand. And this can be used in more than just document management, obviously, but you know, when we think about document management and being able to, you know, predict things like, you know, decisions or actions that need to happen with a document based on the content of that document. All of these things can be done using historical data. So there's really kind of two kind of core ways that you would do this with the machine learning. You have kind of like what we call unsupervised learning, where it doesn't have any kind of set inputs to kind of train the model. It kind of trains just based on all the data that it's coming in. It kind of makes those decisions. But then there's more of a supervised training model, or a supervised model, where the machine learning can be fed kind of inputs of data that's kind of tagged, and that data can be used to then further train those models and enhance that machine learning to really refine those decisions. And then that feeds into being able to do predictive analytics. So especially if you're doing any kind of data analysis from documents, and you want to be able to do any kind of predictive analytics based on the content of those documents, that's really important, especially if you can start to kind of refine it to be more accurate over time. And of course, the more accurate you can make it, the better off you can be in terms of like just reducing like your risk assessment, right? And this, you know, one of the things we'll touch on in this webinar is a great example of this is like, you know, personally identifiable information, right? And being able to, over time, have not only have AI identify the PII, but get really good at understanding that context of that content, and making sure that it is accurately identifying the PII, and maybe even redacting that PII with its integration into PrizmDoc to help protect your organization from any kind of legal consequences for that. So what are the implications in the future of document management and ECMs? Well, I mean, obviously, I think, you know, there's a lot of opportunities for increased efficiency and productivity. And what's really, I think, probably significant about this is, you know, many years ago, as computers started to come into the workplace, and new tools and applications and all of these things were developed, those were all opportunities for massive productivity enhancements within organizations. And a lot of people had to learn new skills to adopt those technologies. And we're at another one of those inflection curves now, where this is a new technology that, again, is just going to take all of this to a whole other level in terms of the efficiency and productivity that we can get, but it requires kind of learning of new skill sets for the workforce. But again, those things married together can really produce, really amp up that curve and create some really significant gains. It can help with decision making, right? So being able to, you know, curate lots of data, extract relevant information, and really highlight things that are important to help you in your decision-making processes, especially when you have large document data sets, which most organizations do. And again, I'll come back to like the e-discovery example. They're bringing in lots of different data, right? They could bring in Word files, you know, email files, Excel files, it could be PDFs, it could be images, it could be, you know, lots of different documents from within the organization. And to be able to quickly process those and make decisions based on that, or identify the documents or the things that you need to do from that, the AI can really drive that to make that really fast and much more accurate. Again, improve security and compliance. We talked about things like PII, but anytime you have things that you need to make sure that that information is protected or it's included in a document. You know, maybe there's certain phrasing that has to be included in your contracts under certain conditions. And these are things that, you know, will keep you compliant, or if there's things from a security perspective, being able to leverage the AI in your document management workflow to help support those things is going to be really important. And then, of course, just overall enhancing that end user experience. So when the end user's in your ECM, they're looking for content, they're doing whatever they're doing as part of their job. They're right now today they're using search tools, filtering tools to find those documents, where the AI can now kind of support that, kind of put that on steroids and really help them get quickly to the information that they need to take the action or make the decision that they need to make as part of their job. So we want to show some examples of some of the things that IBM Watson X brings to the table today that supports these different areas that we talked about. And so for this, I'm going to turn this over to Omkar, and he's going to show you a couple examples. So let me turn this over to Omkar real quick. All right, there you go, Omkar. You're in charge.
Thank you very much. Dan, I appreciate you taking us through the trends in AI. And it's great to be partnering with Accusoft and talking to your community members today. What I wanted to do is show all of you things live. So if, Dan, you can confirm you can see my screen now?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, great. Sounds good. So, folks, what we are going to do now is show you a digital experience wherein you can see some of the common AI tasks that are being performed using Watson X, but also some of the things that Dan talked about from a future trend standpoint. So this is a digital self-serve experience. All of you can actually follow me along. All you need to do is go to this site called dsce.ibm.com/watsonx. And what you'll see here is these are curated about 30 plus use cases from different partners IBM has worked with. And you will see a number of them. They are nicely organized. You will see what use case they are talking about. You will see the AI task at the top. You can also filter them by various models that you can use in Watson X over here and do that filtering to see how a specific model will perform. So this is at your disposal. You don't need to log in or do any such thing. And this particular site, any of the use cases that you will see have a very nice format. So what I'm going to do is take you through one of the future AI trends and take you through a use case wherein, like Dan said, if you are taking a look at a very complex document, in this case, it's an electronic design automation handbook. It has literally 600 plus pages. And if you want to search for a specific piece of information, or if you want to have a summary of it, and more importantly, know whether the answers you are getting are precise and in the context of that particular industry, this is how you would do it, right? So this is using some of the IBM technology. It's since we are talking about future trends, I'm going to show a preview version of what is called the flows engine. And again, take a look at this site. It's nicely organized. Any of the use case you look at will have something called a demo explainer. So it will tell you exactly what the demonstration is doing. It has a nice architecture diagram, but it also has sample code. So you can take a look at the GitHub repo, and you can actually fork it yourself and start creating sample apps yourself using this site. So let me show you first this particular example wherein we are going to look at what is called as grounded LLMs. So the LLM, the large language model, is going to specifically give you answers in the context of this complex document, but it is also going to show you whether the answer is relevant, is it accurate or not, and things like that. So over here, what we simply do is there are a set of questions, and again, as you can tell, these are prompts. And all you need to do is hit the search button. And what you will see here happening is you will get a very precise answer to this question from a very large document. And you will also know what its hallucination score is. So what is the answer relevance? What is the context relevance? And then you can also view where the source is of that information and where this answer is coming from. So I think this is a great example where we can take document processing and understanding to the next level, wherein, because hallucination is a big thing, we don't want answers to be random, and we want them to be as precise as possible in the context of an industry. And if you look at the document that was being queried, you can again take a look at it. It's an electronic design document. It has 672 pages, and we could get the precise answer from this handbook, such a large handbook, and we can get answers precisely to a bunch of questions, understanding what the relevance of the answers is, what their faithfulness and groundedness is, and such. So this is again one good example of what Dan was talking about on how you can process complex documents and really have what IBM is good at is being trustworthy in the responses when we do generative AI using watsonx. So this is a good example of doing that. The second example I wanted to show you is also quite interesting. Dan talked a lot about generation and how you can create marketing briefs, sales briefs, and improve the productivity of your knowledge workers. So this again, take a look. Always first you should take a look at the demo explainer, and it will tell you which persona we are going to talk about and what they can specifically do. There is an architecture diagram on how things are getting used, and then there is of course sample code that you can take a look at. Let's take a look at this interactive demo wherein very sparse information will be given about a particular marketing brief that needs to be created. So as you can see, there are a few bullet points here, that's it. And what we are asking is for watsonx to generate the marketing brief using this small information and a piece of information. And what you'll see here is the generation happening very quickly as well of this particular marketing brief. And the interesting thing is we also provide, so this is the marketing brief that was created. As you can see on the left-hand side, all we ask to do is write in a concise and professional tone based on these few points, and the objective, target audience, key message, creative direction, all of that was created by the LLM. Let me show you what is happening behind the screens. So if you go to the right and you look at view payload, so what is happening is Mistral AI's Mistral model, large language model, it's called the mixture of expert model, is being used in this context. Let me just close. In this particular use case. And then you will see here what the prompt is, what is the input and output you are giving to the prompt. What you are also seeing here is what is the decoding method that is being given. So what you are seeing here is this is the payload. And as Dan pointed out, that everything that Accusoft does is through APIs. So all this is this payload is showing you the API that you will use to embed watsonx to do generative AI as part of your solutions. And the last example I'm going to take is, again, Dan talked about improving collaboration and improving productivity of the employees. So this, I think, is a good example that we are going to look at, wherein you will be able to collaborate across the globe, across your multiple teams, doing things in multiple languages. So in this example, again, take a look at the demo explainer, what we are trying to do in different with different personas over here. And then in the interactive demo, what you will see here is you will be able to do a translation rather quickly using the LLM. Close this. Let's use the Japanese text over here, Japanese sampler text, and say get summary. So what is happening here is A summary is generated again very quickly in Japanese language. If you look at the payload, we are using the Granite 8B Japanese model, and you will see the prompt that you can embed as part of your solutions as well. So again, enhancing collaboration between different parties using watsonx is what you will be able to do. So these were quick examples of how you can use some of the capabilities from watsonx to do generative AI in a very trustworthy manner. And this is a site that all of you can use, follow along yourself, and try out watsonx by yourself in a very simple and in a very concise manner. So with that, what I want to do is turn back to Dan. Dan, thanks for the opportunity to present watsonx and how it can help in the Gen AI journey that your community will have. And I will turn it back to you.
Thanks, Omkar. And great, there's just so many potential use cases out there. So definitely, encourage people to explore that. And so let me go back to sharing my screen and going back to the presentation here. Yeah, so one of the things that we want to talk about now is, when Accusoft, so we've been a leader in this document management tools space. And when I say that, I mean our customers, they take us and embed us in their ECMs or their applications because we can bring a lot of advanced functionality around those documents to their applications, right? And it makes it, we can provide it a secure delivery of those documents, high fidelity, performance, stability around a large document set of like 100 different document types that they can then view right in the web browser. And we provide a lot of advanced functionality around things like just with the viewing tools, the annotations and redactions, again, for that security of protecting data or for that collaboration of data. And the key point of those type of things is it doesn't impact the metadata of the original document, and it can all be done in the browser on any device. So there's lots of advanced features that PrizmDoc and PrizmDoc for Java bring to our customers' applications that already were built to improve things like efficiency and collaboration and productivity of a team, improve the security of those documents, all of those things. But by bringing in the IBM, or specifically bringing in like AI functionalities to tie deeper into each of these functionalities to extend them even further and create some automations was one of the key things that we really set out to do in 2024. And so when we did that, what we wanted to do was we wanted to identify a partner that could help us deliver that AI in a very secure and trustworthy way, and IBM is the leader in that space, right? And so they bring to the table expertise and innovation around the AI that can really help us bolster the PrizmDoc product by bringing that cutting edge AI into the product. But also one of the things that's really, I think, really key to point out is when Omkar was going through those examples and he was showing you where each one of those examples could tell you which language model was being used to perform that function. The last time I checked, and this may have changed in the last couple days, but IBM, I think, has around 27 large language models and foundational models that are available. It's constantly changing, it's constantly growing. And as those models are evolving, what we wanted to do is, with PrizmDoc, is we want to help our customers be able to take advantage of the latest technology that watsonx AI delivers in a seamless way where it's very easy to when you embed that into your application, to keep up to date with the most current models. So if, for example, you're using one of those models for, and we'll talk about some of the features that we have, but say document summarization, and maybe you're using a Granite model today, and maybe tomorrow there's a newer Granite model, or there's a meta model or something that is going to actually fit your use case better. We want to make it easy for you to kind of switch those, just change that out, not have to recode anything, and be able to stay up and take advantage of the most accurate and most performant models that are available. So that scalability is important. Being able to keep up with the trends, security IBM's been around for a long time. Security is a top priority for them. So we want to make sure we're offering. It's one of our top priorities at Accusoft, is making sure that our customers' content is being handled in a secure manner and delivered in a secure manner. And then one of the big advantages, and another reason why we wanted to partner with IBM, is that we provide this in both a cloud hosted model, meaning you can use this through PrizmDoc Cloud, or you could use this through PrizmDoc in your self-hosted model, or you can use it through the cloud, which would then connect up to the IBM cloud for the processing with the AI, or you can completely host the Watson X AI models in your environment. So I'll say that again, you can completely host those AI models in those LLMs in your environment. And that, for customers where security and data governance is really critical, which is a lot of our customers, that's a key benefit, I think. And so again, we just want to make it easier for you to keep up with that technology, reduce your time to delivery of new AI features. So as we're delivering new stuff, you can integrate that into your application quickly. And of course, we want to be working with a trusted and credible partner, which is what IBM brought to the table.
Yeah, and then I'll just add one thing to what you just said on the evolving models. So IBM just announced the Granite 3.0 model series. And like you said, they offer you to do a variety of tasks, but there are very specific models for safety. They are called the Granite 3.0 Guardian models. So you can be assured of the trustworthiness of the responses you get from those models. And most importantly, some of these models are actually small in size. So they are very efficient to run as well. So you can do things in a very cost-effective manner, as well as in a very safe manner. And like you said, you can run them everywhere because they're all based on OpenShift, the entire stack. So you can run it in a hybrid cloud manner, on-prem or in any cloud. And we are really proud to be partnering with Accusoft to deliver all these capabilities to your customers and partners.
Yeah, thanks, Omkar. And speaking of partnerships, so we just announced this partnership in it was July 17th was when we announced our partnership. Since July 17th, we've launched 4 new AI features in PrizmDoc, where we're leveraging the power of PrizmDoc in terms of our ability to do document management in a web-based browser with advanced search tools and annotation tools and all of these things, and really tying that in very closely with the AI. And so we've delivered 4 key features: auto summarization of content, which you kind of got to see a summary there, or a sample of that just with the AI technology. I'll give you an example of showing that actually tied in with PrizmDoc. Auto tagging classification, which again is important in that document workflow process of being able to automatically tag, classify, helps with your search, helps with your sorting, helps with decision making, automated decision making. Document Q&A, that asking questions about a document, and then again referring back to the security and the compliance with the PII detection and redaction. So that's what we've done today. So let's talk about use cases. So there's lots of different use cases for this technology, and I think one of the things that I'd really love to hear from people on this call is, like, what are use cases that you're seeing today, or potential use cases that you think might arise in your workflow? And how can we help you with that? What are the things that do we have the technology already? Is there things that we need to adjust to help address those use cases for you? Because as you learn more about the AI technology, I think new use cases come up all the time. I run into this a lot. We're having conversations with customers, and we'll be talking about their workflow and kind of talk about some of their pain points. And there will be something that'll come up, and it'll be like, oh, we need, an example might be, we need to do automatic redaction of information, but we have like PII redaction today, where it automatically detects PII and then redacts it. But they may have like specific content or specific terms that they use that they want to redact, but they only want to redact it in certain contexts. So it goes back to that whole, understanding the context. And so being able to leverage, what we've built and evolve that quickly for our customers, I think is a big advantage of the way that we've integrated the IBM Watson X tools into PrizmDoc. So, the first, when we looked at use cases and what was the technology, or what were the kind of key things we wanted to build first. Auto summarization was a key one, right? This is a pretty obvious one. I think a lot of customers have a need for this. We see this a lot where there's large pieces, large documents. You quickly want to be able to kind of consume, what is this document about? Maybe before, maybe you're going to make a decision, you're searching for some specific information, but maybe, before you read a 100-page document, you just kind of want to go, is this even the right document for me to open and read? And that's where this, auto summarization can come in. It can help you quickly find that document, make sure that it's a relevant document before you dive in deeper, which again then is going to support your decision-making process. So very, very important in terms of just being able to consume information. It can also be used again on the generative. It is a generative AI technology, right? So you're generating these summaries, and so what we're doing in PrizmDoc is we're taking that, distilling that down with that integration to watsonx, creating that summary, and then delivering that back to you, where you can take that and stick that into your ECM or whatever, so it's tied to that document. So you don't have to regenerate it all the time, right? So you can store that information. So you can programmatically do that, where you can just do that with API calls and automate that process. So maybe as you're ingesting documents into your workflow, you're automating that, or you could do it from the actual user interface itself. So there's multiple ways you can do it. And I'll just reiterate, you'll hear this a lot. Everything that we've built, I know Amkar already mentioned this, everything that we do is based on APIs. It's all API driven. Everything we do in PrizmDoc is API driven. So really what that allows you to do is create some very enhanced automations throughout the entire workflow, not just with what the AI does, but then making decisions or performing actions in the document based on the results from that AI. The other big one is, of course, auto classification and tagging, right? So most ECM systems today are going to have some kind of tagging that's maybe topic related or something that they're using to kind of classify the documents, and classifications based on what kind of document is it a contract, is it a press release, is it an NDA, is it a quote, etc. And all these are things that help just kind of organize the information, but it can also be used to help create an automated workflows. Maybe certain documents when they come in, like if you're a insurance claim, that comes in, there might be multiple documents that come in, and some of those documents might need to route to different departments, right? And so creating those automated workflows can be based a lot of times on those classifications. Having a person do those classifications or do that routing automatic or manually can be very time consuming. AI can enhance that, and we've brought that to the table with auto tagging classification feature in PrizmDoc. So again, this feature is again available today. You can programmatically do this using those APIs. We also have a manual UI that you can do to see this. I'll show you an example of that. One of the things that I think is key here is that we do allow you to perform or classify, like what are the classifications that you want in your organization. So every organization is different, and so the way that you classify your documents may be different from organization A to organization B. And so we make that configurable, so it's really easy for you to say, this is what we want to do and how we want to classify our documents. And then the AI just looks at that list and says, okay, based on what you're saying, this document meets this kind of classification. Again, could be all automated through our API calls.
Yeah, and then you kind of nicely pointed out how Accusoft fits in very aptly in the workflow of what customers and partners and the applications that they're creating through this API-based approach. So I think it's very neat, and you become an integral part of any workflow that is being tried to be orchestrated right across systems by your customers and partners. So very nice job done there.
Yeah, thanks. Document Q&A, so this is interesting because this is kind of, again, what you see this when you talk about things like ChatGPT or any of these, chat bot type things where you're asking questions. And I think one of the key things that's important to remember is it's great, right? Because it can quickly get you answers to things that you want to get answers to. When we do this, when we implement this, and that can, of course, improve lots of things in terms of information access, improved customer support, knowledge management, all of these things, research time can be drastically decreased. All of those things can be sorted through or supported through a document Q&A feature. When we implement this into PrizmDoc, again, it's done via an API, so you can do it from within the PrizmDoc UI, which is a great place for it, right? Because a lot of times in the review process, someone's looking at a document, they've maybe read the summary and said, yeah, this is a document I want. They open it, and then they may say, well, I'm looking for very specific information. Who's required to sign this document? Or what date was this document signed? And it can just take you quickly to that part of that content, or give you the answer to that and say, here's the answer to your question, right? And it shows you in the document where was that information derived from. But I think one of the key things that's important to point out here too is when you talk about things like hallucination and accuracy, when OnCard showed his example, that data is data that can be fed back via through the API calls, can be fed back as a JSON data, right? So you can, if you want to use that data somehow in your application, in your ECM or your application, where you want to be able to show some kind of a score or something to the end user so that they can see, like, how much should I trust what the AI has done here? That's data that could be made available. And that's important because I've done tests with other AI products, and you can ask a question I've asked a question yesterday to Gemini, and I asked it a very specific question, like, who is the leading running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? And it gave me an answer. And I said, are you sure about that? What about this other person? And it came back and it said, oh yeah, you're right, I was wrong, it's this other person. I had somebody else test it, it gave them the exact opposite answer. So there's still a lot of kind of uncertainty in that area, and I think that's one of the key things that's important to point out about using somebody reputable like IBM, Watson XAI, and being able to have even access to that data, so you do have some kind of a reassurance of, like, what is the accuracy of this data, where was the data derived from. That's all very important. And then PII, detection and redaction. This is really important. Just being able to protect that sensitive information. And this is one example. So I talked about, you can protect, you can search and redact other types of information. We added this feature specifically because we know that, there's a lot of legal consequences to accidentally disseminating any kind of PII. So most organizations in some part of their workflow are going to want to be able to identify and protect that information. And in some cases, they have data regulation, privacy regulations that they have to comply with. And this just helps automate that, helps reduce their risk. And it just, again, streamlines that process where even if they're not fully trusting the AI can do the identification. We can then highlight it in the PrizmDoc viewer and make it so that your person that wants, if you want to manually review it, you can, and they can manually review it, but it streamlines that process for that end user, so they don't have to just read the whole document. It's going to highlight everything for them. So it's really a really beneficial feature for a lot of organizations.
Yeah, and then I was recently in Europe, and I can't emphasize enough how much the data masking capability is important to the municipalities and the governments over there. They are very big on privacy, security, and compliance, and this is one of the key capabilities they are really looking for.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and again, one of the benefits there is being able to provide with all the different language models that IBM delivers. One of the things we want to be able to do as we evolve our technology and evolve our kind of integration with Watson X is just making sure that we can support multiple languages for these types of things. So today, the feature we've delivered is English only, but we do look to expand on that because we're a global company. We have customers all over the world. So we definitely want to be able to expand, and having a partner like IBM is really helpful for that.
Yeah, and so therefore I showed the Japanese language translation, right, as one of the future things we can look at jointly together.
Yep, absolutely. So let's jump out and let me just show you a real quick. I'll give you a quick look at some of this technology and how this is integrated. So we, for example, this is the PrizmDoc viewer. Again, this is completely embeddable. You can put this in your application or ECM, so that, especially a web-based ECM, where people can just click on the document. They could view it right there on their device, any device, mobile device, tablets, computer, and they have all these tools that are available to them. The other thing that's really key to note here is you can completely customize the look of this viewer. And that's important, right? You want to make your users have the best, end user experience, and you want it to look like your application. So we see a lot of our customers where they've gone in and actually modified the user interface to look like their application. But for example, right now we've got this press release document here. I've got some quick, I'm showing you in the UI how to make these calls. But again, this can all be automated through APIs. So in this case, I want to summarize the document. It's going to just take this content. It's going to send that to watsonx. watsonx AI is going to process it. It's going to return to us as a JSON data payload, that summary, which we're going to display here in the UI. You can cut and copy or copy and paste this out if you wanted to. But again, because you can automate that, you can also just, as you're ingesting documents into your ECM or your document management system, you can have it automatically create that summary and make that summary available to your end users in whatever interface they're using to actually search for the documents that they want to interact with. So just streamlines that process. The next one that we have is the document Q&A. So this is, I can ask a question like, let's see, when was Accusoft founded? So rather than have to search through the document to answer this question, I could just ask a question and it can go out and it can return that results for me. Now, if you ask for more in-depth information and say that the answer is maybe in multiple places, or there's multiple paragraphs of context or content that may have something relevant to what you ask, it'll actually show you, like, it'll list them each one at a time. And then the last thing here is the classification and tagging. So you'll notice that I have these other classifications listed here. It shows press release. So this again is that list of classifications that I mentioned, where you get to define what your classifications are. And so that it chose from the list, it said, well, based on what your classifications are, this is a press release. And then it automatically suggested some tags for me about the most relevant kind of topical tags related to the document. So those three, and then the fourth one that I have is the PII detection. And so I'm just going to use a sample email in this case. PII detection is tied into our redact feature. So what that means is it's going to perform the PII identification. So when you perform it, again, this could be done automatically with an API. So you could have it automatically go out, find the stuff, automatically redact it. If you want to make it where somebody still reviews it, you can do it like this, where it will show up here and it'll highlight it. And it'll also show you down the left-hand side all the content that it felt that the AI came back and said, what we think this is PII, this is the type of PII we think it is, and what our confidence score is. Again, all that is JSON data that you can get back, and then you can automate around that. So you might say anything that's a date and time where it's a confidence level over 80%, automatically redact it, right? And you can just kind of build that kind of logic into your workflows to create even further efficiencies. But then when you want to, redact something, it's simply just a matter of finding the piece of content and either clicking a button, or like I said, that can be completely automated. And then you'll see when I hover over it, it shows me what I'm going to redact. So when I save this as a PDF, it'll create a secure PDF with that information completely removed. All right, so that is it for the presentation. So let's go back here and see if we have any questions. Yeah, so the first question I see, actually I get this question almost every time we have a webinar, and maybe this person might have joined a little late. The question was, can we self-host this? And the answer is yes, absolutely. You can completely self-host this. As Omkar mentioned, they have these models now where they're kind of streamlined models that you can host in a much more cost-effective way. So that I think the technology is getting better, and the ability to kind of make those models even more compact and focused is continuing to evolve as well.
Yep. Yeah, Dan, and you correctly said it. It's both. One is, since it's based on OpenShift, you can host it in any hyperscaler or on-prem. And because some of these models have been curated, things like HAP has been removed, copyright violations and all that. So you will be hosting some really nice models which are smaller in size anywhere you want, right? So it's we would love to work with you on it.
Yeah, that's great. Here's another question that's actually an interesting one. Is someone says, you mentioned that models change. How often does that happen? I can just give you an example of this, and I think Omkar, you could probably layer some more data on this, but here's a good example. When we first started building our features for this product back in July, the first one we did was auto summarization. We said we think that that's probably the quickest out of the gate to get that integrated into the product. We know that we've got a lot of customers who are interested in that. So we did a bunch of testing. So we go in and we look at, what are the models that are going to work best. And we chose, I don't remember the exact model at the time, but the model that we chose that was most performant, producing the most accurate results, that's the one we rolled out the feature with initially. Now this can be configured in the background to use a different model, but that's the one we delivered as the kind of GA.
Right.
What happened was, I think like a month and a half later after we released that feature, that model had already been, at that point, was already being deprecated and replaced by a newer model. And so just in that short amount of time, the models are just constantly improving and getting better and more accurate and more performant. And the other big part of that is the amount of data that they can process. So everything that is basically based on tokens. And yep. I think that the model we chose at the time had like I'll guess it was around 8,000 or 9,000 token limit. The new model that's replacing it is like 128,000 token limit. Like, so it went from like 8,000 or 9,000 to like 128,000. So like it's just a continually evolving. And Omkar, I don't know if you want to add any more to that.
No, I will add to that. And Dan, you nicely said it. These models, what Dan was mentioning, is called the context window. So how much input you can get and how much output. The context windows are increasing dramatically, right? So they started from, I believe, 4K to 8K to 32K and 128K, right? The context windows are increasing. And the nice thing about working with IBM and watsonx is we keep up with these models. And if Meta releases a model, we have our own model as well, the Granite family. Or I'll give you an interesting example to the point Dan made. There are vision models that are very popular now. So Llama 3 is one of them that is available through watsonx. But we realized that in some geographies like Europe, where there are licensing restrictions, we might need to use another model like Pixtra. And that too was available through the IBM watsonx family, right? So it's constantly evolving, and so you don't have to keep up with many of these things if you work with watsonx, because we do the job of keeping up and making it available to partners like Accusoft, and then through them to their customers and partners.
Yeah, great. So we have some more questions here. Someone asked about the PII masking feature, if it always needs a human in the loop. So I'll answer that really quick. The answer is no. You can completely automate that 100%. You don't ever have to have a human in the loop. When we build it in demo purposes for what I showed you there and how we kind of deliver that GA, we build it that way for demo purposes, so you can kind of see what it's doing. And that, one of the hard things about AI is it's like, you show it and it's all the stuff's happening in the background, right? The kind of magic's happening in the background, but it can be completely automated. It doesn't have to have a human in the loop at all.
Yeah, and that just to support what you said, in the example I showed you, it was the LLM that was doing the evaluation of the answers, right? So LLM is acting as a judge for evaluation in many cases these days too. So just watch out for that space.
Yeah. This next one, I think I'll have you answer this, Omkar. It's how can your customers quantitatively evaluate your models versus similar models of from other sources? It's a good question.
So it's a great question. And one of the things I wanted to show this to you, but in the interest of time, I couldn't do that. What IBM offers through its watsonx.governance product is something called an AI fact sheet. So it will give you how each model performs, what its AI quality is, what its model health is as well. And then you can evaluate them one versus the other. I would actually urge you on the DSCE site, there is a use case where we say compare IBM models. So do take a look at it. We not only show you what the accuracy of the score is, but what the latency is as well by using different models for a particular prompt. So you can compare various IBM models, and there is also a use case where you can switch from other models to IBM models, which Gen AI applications. So do take a look at the site, and we offer you the way to evaluate the models. And through the watsonx governance product, we can actually help you do it in a fairly automated manner too.
Yeah, that's great. The next question is, does the document Q&A feature support querying a set of documents, or is it limited to a single document only? That's a great question. We get that a lot, right? Obviously, most times people want to query and they want to be able to ask the question about multiple documents. Again, yes, you can do that. The query to make, or the API call to do that Q&A doesn't have to happen right within the viewer itself. It can happen in your ECM, so you could select multiple documents. And then what PrizmDoc will do is we'll bring the text of all those together into the query. We'll send that over to be processed, and we'll get your answer back. Now, what is the limiting factor is, again, we talked about the tokens and the amount of tokens that the LLM will support. Those are continually growing in terms of how much the LLMs can take. One of the things that we have on the PrizmDoc side is what we call document chunking. So even in the cases where you hit the limits of what the LLM can process, we have document chunking that can help even allow you to send even more data. And I think I'm sure there's work being done on the IBM side too to continue to support larger data.
Yeah, Dan, you're right. So we have multiple vector databases in the backend wherein you can chunk and store information in the embedding models, vector databases. So we can help working with Accusoft, work with literally millions of documents out there. So we will have the underlying technology to support it, retrievers, vector databases, embedding models, chunking strategies, you name it.
Yep, good. The next question is, does this AI product support any graphic formats? For example, would it be possible to get insights from CAD documents? So how most Accusoft customers do this is we're generally either taking those documents and converting them to like PDF, and then we can extract the text from that to perform. So we can extract the text from it and perform functions on that. Same thing with a graphic format. If you just have an image, we can actually OCR that and extract text from that can be used to drive the AI. This next one I think is, so can pre-built curated industry specific taxonomies be used in your application? If so, what benefits would they provide? So yes, you could use those for the classification. So if you had a pre-built list of taxonomies that drove your classifications, because I think that sometimes there's a kind of a gray area. Some people call classifications and tags kind of get overlapping. But if you do have a predetermined list there, we can incorporate that in your configuration where you use that to drive what is driving the classifications. Today, the tags themselves, those are all completely suggested by the AI. But again, that's something that I think in the future state, I think that's something we want to make more configurable, but right now it's classifications completely configurable. Could take your taxonomies to drive that, absolutely, and the tag part would be driven automatically. It looks like Oh, we got a few more questions. So we're going to run out of time here. We've got one more question, and then we will, if we didn't get to your question, we will follow up with you afterwards. I do want to say, yeah, there's a question that says, did I understand it correctly that you use Watson for OCR? No, we don't currently use Watson for OCR. We have our own OCR tools that we use, but it is definitely something we're exploring at working, especially when we talk about multi-language support, at working with Watson on in the future. So that's it. Again, if we didn't get your question, apologize. We ran out of time, but we will get back to you, and if we haven't, we'll follow up with you. And again, appreciate everybody's time. We know that you're busy, and we hope that you got some value out of this. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to marketing@accusoft.com. And we can follow up. We'll get you connected up with the account manager, the right person for you to talk to. And if we need to have a deeper dive with your organization about your specific use cases, we're more than happy to get myself from product management team on the call with you, and as well as our engineers. So thank you, everybody, and have a great afternoon.
Yeah, and count on full support from IBM. So thank you so much. It was great, Dan. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.